YouTube. Here we go. It was born on Wharf Bay in Anglesey, and it was designed by a guy called Maurice Wilkes, who at the time was the Director of Engineering for Landrover, and he drew it with a stick in the sand on the beach. And that iconic shape has pretty much stayed the same today. This car, believe it or not, designed in 1947, and it was on show at the Amsterdam Motor Show just a couple of months later in 1948. And key parts of it, the ladder frame chassis, the aluminium body panels, they're shared with this very model. And I just think that's a testament to true British engineering. You can't knock that. It hasn't changed. Yes, they rust. Yes, they're a little bit uncomfortable. There's not quite enough room to sit in them if you've got legs. And if you've got a right arm, that won't fit in it either. You've got to have the window down most of the time. The clutch is heavy. Your left leg will be stronger than you ever thought it could be. And your right leg's going to have to keep up as well, because it's not light on the braking either. Most of them don't have ABS, they don't have traction control, but other than that, I mean, who cares? What we did with this one is pretty much a full nut and bolt restoration on it. It only came in for a few minor bits and pieces, sound deadening and a couple of interior upgrades. They also wanted it undersealed. That's a common thing that you've got to do on a Land Rover. They just need it. They're so prone to rust pretty much everywhere. This one lives on the North Cornish coast, so it's even worse. It's got salty air as well. So when we had a look at the chassis, it had a couple of poor rust undersealing jobs beforehand, and that really did make it not a particularly viable option for the customer. It was going to be so much work to scrape it off, get it back to good metal and restore it for something that he was going to have to top up year on year. So what we actually did with this one is a galvanised chassis swap on it. If you own a classic Defender, it's really the way you're going to have to go at some point with it. The old chassis, it's done well. It's probably done your 20, 25 years of service, but it finally needs a little bit of TLC. We've used a Richard chassis on this one. We have used the Marston's ones as well, but we found that the Richard ones are of the better of the two. All the threads are all tapped out ready for you, so it makes it much easier to actually install. Along with the chassis swap, we swapped out a lot of the actual physical hardware that's underneath it, mounting brackets, various plates and adapters that hold things on, things like the stanchions that hold the tub up, all sorts of bits and pieces like that. We swapped those out for galvanised ones as well, because it made sense. If it's going to be all galvanised and you don't want to worry about the rust, you might as well have everything done the same. The fuel tank cradle, fuel tank straps, all of those bits and pieces. It wasn't a cheap job, it never is. Nothing mechanical is anymore, especially on these, because you know the parts are fairly expensive for them. The bulkhead, we coated all the bottom half of the bulkhead in a Raptor Seal paint, because that's another common area where these rust in the footwells and the top corners. He's got total peace of mind now, and he can really enjoy the car for what it is. And it's a pleasure to drive right now, I must say. I know I'm a little bit biased because I know I love Defenders, and I know I've already pointed out some of the uncomfortable elements about them, but it doesn't have the pulling to the left as most of them do. You don't get the vibration from the front swivels anymore. You can actually use it as an everyday car if you wanted to. If you do a lot of long commuting or you live in London, it's probably not the best thing for you. But for us here, perfect. Absolutely perfect. A couple of other things we upgraded at Park Ferme is we did put in new headlights. The glowworms in a jam jar, which it comes with from factory, have been replaced, and we've fitted some high intensity discharge LED lights with projection lenses. And the difference at night when you're driving with those is really quite something else. We also did a full LED lighting pack all around the vehicle, so side markers, indicators, etc. has all been swapped out for the new Y-Pack LED units. And they actually mean that at night other people can see what you're doing on the road as well. We swapped out the radio and the head unit here as all part of the dashboard. It's a little bit like trying to get your mum to use an iPad for the first time. It doesn't really want to, and it doesn't really work very well. But with this whole new fascia kit that we got from a local company called In-Car Tech, big shout out to them because they've been really, really helpful with us. We managed to get this really nice Pioneer double DIN unit. It's got CarPlay, DAB radio, the works, all on here, full sat nav, you can get your Waze up on here. That's a really nice upgrade for these ones, and better still, it's got a hands-free where people can hear you and you can hear them. We changed out the wing mirrors. We put these new ones on there, a blind spot assist mirror, so that the customer whose vehicle this is does quite a lot of towing. So you've got the domed mirror at the bottom, which means you don't have quite such a large blind spot behind the vehicle, but you can also still see. That's quite handy. We also swapped out the speakers. They're also all new Blam audio speakers with new tweeters up here on the dashboard. So you do get crystal clear audio in the cab, which is quite an upgrade. You need it as well because you've got to have the window down all the time, so there's quite a lot of motorway noise. Oh look, there's a Discovery 4 over there. That's much more comfortable than this. This is better. You can park this up at the most prestigious hotel and it'll still be out at the front with the valet parking long after the Rolls Royces and the like have all left and gone into the back car park. There's just something about the shape of these, there's something about the design, it just makes my heart all nice and giddy and warm, and I really do like these. It's clear to see. Defenders come in all kinds of specs with loads of different options and extras. I say loads, it's a very short list. You can have electric windows, you can have central locking, you can have heated seats, and you can have aircon. Everything else stays pretty much the same. This one doesn't have aircon, but it does have manual windows. So I need to lower that down for two reasons. One, so I can see out the windscreen again, and two, so I've got somewhere to rest my right arm because I'm getting a little bit of cramp in that one now. I learned to drive in one of these. My driving instructor couldn't work out why I didn't use first gear. I mean, if you've got a Defender, you'll know. You don't really use it. It's there for rock crawls and hitching up trailers. Other than that, you start in second pretty much everywhere you go. Farmers have been using them since the dawn of time. They were kind of designed as a bit of a crossover between a vehicle and a tractor. And some of the early ones actually had a PTO takeoff on the back, so you could power machinery with it if you needed to. The military even started using them and still did up until very recently, known as the Snatch Landrover. There's so many options and different specs and conditions and configurations that you can buy these in. People do them up as overlanders with huge winches and massive tyres and lift kits that are taller than a two-storey house. But then you also got some of the urban iterations, which, you know, more suited to the streets of London in Kensington and Chelsea. But that DNA, that iconic shape, it's still there. You probably just noticed I did do then the signature Defender wave. You can try it in some of the modern ones. It's not the same. That's a thing that Defender owners know and love together. It's just the Defender wave.